What's Jables? No gaming video this week, but I'm going to tell you about one of the most fun electric skateboards I've ever used. That's the Ride1Up Slopestyle. At first glance, to me at least, this board looks like it's using a lot of stuff that we've seen before. The motors look similar to those used by Team G and previously Backfire. The remote looks like a hybrid of the generic Hobbywing remote, but with the same display commonly found on Team G's and other boards' remotes. The deck, although it's dropped through, wasn't that impressive, but this board overall was a pleasant surprise. As usual, I'm going to go through what I like about this board and also what I think can be improved. The thing that I like most about this board is that it is incredibly great for carving. The low center of gravity, the soft barrel bushings, the Paris-inspired trucks. This board was designed for carving. I don't think I've tried another electric skateboard that was designed specifically for this purpose. I think the enclosures for the ESC and battery are worth mentioning. Look at how small they are. I tried opening them to look inside, but they seem to be glued shut, probably for water resistance. But from the outside, they look like they have no wasted space. This battery enclosure for a 10S3P battery is smaller than many enclosures I've seen for a 10S2P battery. Speaking of 10S3P, this board is fast. It's using Samsung 25R cells in a 10S3P arrangement, making it a 7.5 amp hour battery. And as for the top speed, Ride1Up's website claims that it goes up to 26 miles per hour, which is 42 kilometers per hour. I didn't do a proper speed test because the board felt a bit wobbly near the top speed, but I did reach 40 kilometers per hour. The range is pretty decent. I did 2 range tests. During the first one, the weather was 6 degrees Celsius, I weighed 75 kilograms, and I reached 20.5 kilometers. During the second test, the weather was 19 degrees Celsius, I weighed probably around 72 kilograms, and I reached 24 kilometers. I was expecting more range from this battery, but 24 kilometers is still pretty good. Like most other boards using the same ESC, you can turn it on by just pushing it, and you can lock the wheels at a full stop by engaging the brakes to prevent it from rolling down a slope. But unlike most other boards using the same ESC, the acceleration, even in the highest speed mode, is not jerky at all. It's actually totally smooth, which was surprising. Now let's talk about what I think could be better on this board. The remote for this board, that's a little bit too dark. The remote for this board really looks like the default Hobbywing remote. The contour of these two remotes are not just similar, they're exactly the same. Oftentimes, customers who are familiar with electric skateboards care about which ESC is being used, and from looking at this remote, they might think that this board uses the Hobbywing ESC, but it doesn't. In fact, part of the reason that I agreed to cover this board that I never heard of was because I looked at the pictures of this board and its remote and I thought that it uses the Hobbywing ESC. Nowadays, the only brand that I'm willing to cover that's using the same ESC as Meepo is Meepo, and that's only because Meepo is super popular. I just don't think that any board in 2019 should be using this ESC unless they make major improvements to the braking behavior. So let's talk about braking now. When trying to brake, there's a large dead zone when pulling back on the control lever. That makes braking exactly the way you want very difficult, because it's hard to tell how far back you need to pull on the lever to engage the brakes. This braking problem was normal for budget boards a year and a half ago, but it's not acceptable for cars, it's not acceptable for bicycles, and I don't think it should be acceptable on electric skateboards in 2019 when so many budget boards no longer have this problem. To be clear, the issue is not the braking strength, the issue is the accuracy of the control, which I feel is just not good enough by today's standards. If you're willing to overlook that issue, I think this board is a ton of fun. The owner of Ride1Up is a lifelong skater, and it shows in the design of this board. The slopestyle is fantastic for carving, it's fast, it has a drop-through deck, it has a powerful battery. I wish the braking control were better, but overall, I think this board is worth considering. The thing that I love, the slope style,